Welcome back to my channel. My name is Tiffany. We do fiber arts, lifestyle videos, anything and beyond really. And we're doing today a knitting 201. I've been doing these weird knitting sessions here where I teach kind of the basics of knitting. So I hope that this is helpful. Again, these aren't tutorials specifically. I don't want to teach you kind of how to read an instruction per se, maybe a separate video. But this one, I really want to kind of tell you how sweaters are kind of constructed, specifically the raglan, and kind of go through the steps that I look for, certain tips and tricks that I use to make them how I like them. I'm very picky with my sweaters. Sorry, so I made this sweater with the Bellish app. Thank you, Bellish, for sponsoring this video. Bellish is a all-in-one app where you can design and kind of create your own patterns based off their template, and it's really easy to use. I really like that it's on iOS, unfortunately not on Android, but they do have a website and they have a blog, so I actually have a pattern up there that you can go make yourself. So hopefully this one will get on there too and you can make it with me and we can see how you guys alter it. So this is my sweater. I will go through specifically what I did with the Bellish app. So for the Bellish app, I chose, you can create your own design. So it's all in this one kind of, oh, can you see? It's too bright. Anyway, you can choose here which kind of thing you want to make. You can make hats, sweaters, cardigans, socks, and all that stuff. So I chose the raglan sweater. I chose to do the full body length. I did the scoop neck and full length sleeve. Didn't do anything extra. The yarn that I used was worsted weight, so I mixed a cashmere blend that was marled with the Bling Bling Mohair by We Are Knitters. I wish I had it. Oh wait, no, I do. This is a leftover I have, but it is really, really pretty, and I mixed it with this beige kind of mohair. It called for 4.5 millimeters, but I actually used 5 millimeters, and then I used 4.5s for all the edging. And then for size, I did large just because I wanted it to be more baggy, but I think I honestly could have gone with like an extra large or bigger. Color is kind of whatever, and then you can generate your pattern. So if you guys wanted, you can add that into your thing and you can make the sweater as well, and I'll tell you all the alterations. Okay, so for raglan sweaters are probably my favorite top-down sweater to make. So you start off with the collar. Usually you work flat, but you can work in the round. You start off with just kind of the neckline. You work your way down while adding these raglan stitches. So with raglan, it has 4 different points or stitches where you're going to make increases on either side. So the increases are usually M1L and M1R. I'll put in the description kind of videos on how to do those, but essentially it means that you're making an extra, like you're adding one, but it's slanting left or right. So you want it to slant a specific way to create that kind of V shape on the shoulder. So there are 4 raglan stitches, 2 in the front, 2 in the back, to separate the body, I guess the front and back side, from the 2 arms. So from the first point here, it kind of starts here. So you will, if you're knitting it in the flat, it will be one long strip that encompasses usually the beginning of like the front, the left and the right arm, and then the back, and then you're going to be making increases at the edges of each side of your flat piece and working kind of like a V. And you're going to be making increases here along the way while also making increases on the raglan. So for the raglan, you usually, what you do are you make increases on the front side, and then on the back side, you are going to knit across. So it alternates in between. You're never going to do increases every single row. And so while you're doing that, you're also going to be making increases on the side here to make I guess like a V shape where it creates the curve for the collar. For this specific neckline, if you want it to be more of a scoop or a crew neck, you're going to have it right around here, and then you're going to add stitches along here using the backward loop method. Usually, I think that's the one people usually do. That's what I do. You add stitches and then you can connect and knit in the round. People have always asked me how to knit in the round. You actually just instead of turning the piece around, you're going to just connect and knit the next stitch on the other side until it makes like a circle, if that makes any sense. There's probably videos on it, and again, I'll add everything in the description. So from there, you then just continue making increases. So once you have begun this section and connected the collar, this is when you start working on the yoke. So the yoke is kind of just this front portion that has both the shoulders and the body. And then once you finish the yoke, that is when you are going to separate the arms and the body. I had no idea what the yoke was when I was first reading patterns. It really did not make any sense to me, but you kind of understand slowly as you make more and more pieces. So for raglan specifically, it's really nice because you have separation for where the arms are. So usually you will knit kind of all the way around here. You get to your raglan stitch and then pick all these stitches onto a separate cable or a separate, like you can thread it with a needle and thread, or usually the thread is yarn. Don't use like a sewing thread, that would just be too little. And then you're going to cut that off, tie it off, leave it aside, and then continue knitting onto the next section over here, adding stitches here using the backward loop method, and then continue all the way around to the other side and do it with the other arm. And then you will have just the full body to be knitting, and you just knit it all the way down. Usually the bodies don't have any extra adding like stitches on it, so you just work it straight and then work the edges, like the, oh, I don't want to flash you. You work the edge seam. And then after you finish that, you will usually pick up stitches or from the cable that you have laid on, and you work all the way down, work all the way down. You can kind of either have it straight, all the way straight, and you have kind of a more bell-shaped sleeve, or you can taper it. So what you do is you make decreases at the underarm. Usually it's 2 every like 10 rows, and then but it depends on the piece really, and then you have a more tapered effect. You can't really see it. Another way you can make balloon sleeves. So balloon sleeves, you kind of knit straight, and then you kind of knit 2 together for every stitch, and then work this edge seam. And so I guess, yeah, that is kind of the basics on how you make a raglan sweater. Usually when you have raglan sweater, I highly recommend using stitch markers. So you place stitch markers at the edges here, and you'll make increases on the outside of the stitch markers so that you can always make sure you know where your raglan stitches. This is a 2 raglan this is 2 raglan stitches, but you can have 1. You can have, I actually don't know other designs, but you could probably have more. It's really up to you and up to the pattern. This is just stockinette. So with raglan, it's really nice. You only really have to knit flat until the end of the collar, and so you're going to be purling the backside. Whereas once you start working in the round, you just work on the front. You don't have to turn anything. It's really nice, and I find that my tension is way, way better. So things that I recommend that you have as well, for, I guess, for sweaters, it's really, in my mind, if you're making a raglan sweater, it's crucial to have interchangeable needles, especially circular needles. It's just so handy to have. For the body, I usually use kind of 60 centimeter to 100 centimeter cable lengths so that you can work it and have it all spaced out, versus if you only have like a little boy like cable, it's going to be hard to knit everything because there just isn't enough room. For the sleeves, I recommend 40 centimeters for cable lengths. You can do magic loop method, which I have done in the past. It's just somewhat annoying given the fact that this is kind of too big to do magic loop sometimes, and you can find that you're like, sometimes I do a half magic loop, if that makes any sense. Like one side has like the loop and one doesn't. If you don't understand, it's totally fine. But it's really handy. I have short needles now. If you're really thinking about getting into making lots of sweaters, I think it's a really great investment. So, for example, these are short needles versus like long needles like this. Can you see the difference? It's not focusing. But usually you will have it kind of smaller. What am I even saying? It will just be smaller and easy to work with. I don't think that you can have like longer needles and work a sleeve. So another thing you can also have is double pointed needles. It's also something I've seen a lot of people use. It's just not my preference, but you could easily like that way more. Okay. So that is how I made it. She's beautiful. I really like it. A lot of Raglan sweaters also, I find in a lot of patterns that I see, is that they'll finish increasing on one side and then actually stop increasing on the arm or something and just increase on the body if you want a more baggier fit. And so you can really honestly do anything with Raglan. Increase on one side, increase on the other. It really doesn't matter, just as long as it fits you. I think a number one tip of mine is to always try on your pieces. If you don't try them on, you're not going to know if they really fit you. So if your cables aren't long enough to fit over you, what I do is I'll usually have 2 sets of needles, and I'll move needles onto one of them, so half of them are on one cable and another one is on half, and it's big enough for me to try on the whole thing, because you really do need to try on to see like if you like how baggy this guy is, how long you want the arms, how long you want the body. I find a lot of times if I don't try on something, I just knit it to kind of the centimeters that the pattern tells me, and it's way shorter than what I actually need it to be, because I guess I have a longer body. So that is always really, really handy in my opinion. Another thing is I really, really am picky with my bind off. I, for some reason, don't like using your basic bind off that I taught you in Knitting 101. I really appreciate Italian or tubular bind off. It's something that I kind of just learned within, I actually don't know when I learned it. Recently. I probably will do maybe I'll do tutorial videos. Someone suggested that I make tutorial videos like supplementary to my patterns. I really need to update my patterns. They are so bad. Like I feel like I know so much more now. But Italian bind off I just find is slightly more seamless. Like you can't even tell that there's a bind off versus if you do a normal kind of bind off where you knit 2 and then pull one over. That one is, I guess, yeah, doesn't have a great seam, and these are quite stretchy as well, which I also really like. Another thing that I did for this sweater is I have these 2, I separated them. Sorry, there's a thread there. And so people have asked me how to kind of go from knitting in the round and then knitting flat. It's really simple. You kind of just, instead of continuing to work around in the circle, you just stop at one point and then you turn around. And then you pick up again. I don't know, I guess maybe I just am not very good at helping beginners. I feel like maybe I've just gone into knitting too much that it's just second nature to me. Okay, so with the Bellish app, I really like that you can customize it based off of your own needs, but you can also just customize it based off of like what you like. So for example, you don't have to do a collar like this. I changed it. I actually made it so it is longer, and then I folded it down and then binded off and then sewed it together so it has a double yeah, I guess like it's thicker, and as well it's stretchier, and I find that it's really easy and I don't have to worry about binding off too tightly. As well, I made this longer just because I like the look of a long edge as well as the body. I don't really follow Bellish completely to the T. I really do, like, if I need the arms longer, I'll make it longer. If I want to make the body longer, I'll make it longer. If I find that the arm's too small, I'll just add more stitches kind of at the bottom or kind of at the edge here. It's really up to you. I really like knitting because it's really easy to alter. It's really easy to make it fit the way you want it to fit. But I know from experience, it's easier to alter a pattern versus making a pattern from scratch. I also like that it's really easy to change up your collar. So you could actually do it thinner, you could leave it out, have a raw collar, but I don't necessarily like the look of raw stuff. You can also knit it slightly longer to make a mock neck. You can knit it double and flip it around to make a turtleneck. You can make V-necks, you can make crew necks or scoop necks. This one is a scoop neck, so I feel like it decreases, it increases at like a slower rate. So instead of maybe increasing every round, it's every like four rows. And so you can also alter it to make a V-neck and kind of do it so you make increases every like 6 rows. You know, it's like very up to you, like how deep you want the V or how shallow you want it. I love that you can customize it. It's really up to you. And you can honestly trial and error. I think a lot of knitting, at least for me, is a lot of trial and error. Is just like kind of figuring out what looks good and what doesn't, and you really have to try it on when you do it. So I totally forgot to mention that the collar is something that you pick up from the edges of the I guess the collar. You don't actually knit this part first. I mean, you can, but it's really up to you. For this pattern specifically, you work the raglans and then you pick up stitches around here and then knit the collar based off of what you like. Again, it's really nice to have interchangeable circular needles, something that's relatively small so you can work the collar. It's no fun working them on relatively long cables, as I have found in grave experience. Also, if you have extra interchangeable needle like cables, it's really nice because you can leave these on the cables and just twist off the needle and put these little stubs. I don't know what they're called. I don't know why I just call them little stubs. Like little stoppers. They come with all your interchangeable sets, but they have little stoppers here where you can put them on and nothing will happen, and you can just leave them aside. So those are really handy to have if you are thinking about making sweaters. You can also make raglan cardigans. You just continuously knit flat the whole time. So I mean, that's probably another video that we can go through, but I hope that this was helpful, just giving you tips and tricks on what you need to know on how to make a raglan sweater, as well as alterations, things that you should be trying. I also think another tip, sorry for coming up with all these random tips, I usually like to do is I'll knit halfway from the body and then put it on hold and then start both of the arms and then finish them. I think it's just a really nice way to make sure that you have enough yarn, because usually I play yarn chicken like all the time, which is not good, but I do it anyway, just because I love to knit until there's like absolutely no more yarn left. I don't know why. It's just how I like to live. So I will then work on the sleeve 1, sleeve 2, because I really like it to be exactly the same. Usually I'll have one sleeve, and then for the second sleeve, I'll count the sleeves, like the rows for these stitches, and knit the exact same amount because I need them to be the same. And I don't know why, because yes. And then I work the body, and then depending on how much yarn is left, I'll just work it as long as possible and then bind off. Because if you are just doing the body and you finish the body, and then say you're working one sleeve and then you get to your last sleeve and then realize you don't have enough yarn, there's nowhere to go from there. You're going to have to frog the bottom of your body to make up for this sleeve, and that's like my worst nightmare. So I try to finish the sleeves off, and then you're like good to go essentially. Yeah, thank you Bellish for sponsoring this video. Definitely go check them out. I'll leave all their links in the description, as well as a bunch of tutorials, and I'll probably link some free patterns for sweaters that I really like that you can go through and look to see if you kind of understand, I guess, everything I'm explaining to you. And yeah, I think that is it. Thank you so much for watching till the end of this video. Check me out on Instagram. We have a Discord. I stream on Twitch. What else do we do? We're here on YouTube. We're doing blissmas, and I'm very happy about it. Sorry that I'm leaving all these mistakes in because I don't want to edit too much, because I'm filming this on Friday, which is today. So I'll see you guys in the next one. See ya. Bye.